Hey guys, welcome back. It's official, the comfiest game in the history of humanity is now on PC for the first time ever, Halo 3 ODST. So, we're gonna celebrate the same way that we always do, but with a slight twist this time. Now, obviously, ODST doesn't have any conventional multiplayer. It instead introduced us to Firefight, and so, today, we're gonna cover the lore behind every single firefight map and location in Halo 3 ODST. What can I say? It'll be a hell of a video. So wake up, Buttercup, it's time to dive into some lore. Located in the heart of Tayari Plaza in Sector 5 of New Mombasa is Crater, an arena with a frightening level of verticality, and permanently overwatched by the proud lion of New Mombasa. Once the location of a desperate yet chivalrous mission for a certain dropshot trooper, the remnants of his objective still remain in the atrium. A deserted, damaged drop pod. Its user long gone, but its impact on this once peaceful plaza still visible. The lower ground of this precinct was once a peaceful place, likely bustling with commuters and business people going about their daily lives and admiring the rare sight of greenery in this very monochromatic industrial metal jungle. Ferns and untamed vines hang from the steeping walls, and small patches of an African grass, split into quadrants, combine with the stone pillars to form some sort of 26th century natural art piece. Ascending the steps out of the pit takes you to the street, littered with the carcasses of burnt out and abandoned vehicles, the owners of which likely had to flee their cars, their buses and their trucks for their lives upon the invasion. The vast towers of New Mombasa surround Crater, swimming in the energy particles that coat the island city following the opening and subsequent closing of the portal, and casting shadows across its streets. Evil marksmen can be seen lining the rooftops with a keen eye, waiting for some poor, unknowing soul to step out into the open. At night, the neon road signs, advertisements, billboards, and ground-level lights illuminate this plunging arena in an almost comforting manner, making it clear that prior to the invasion, this plaza was one that never slept. However, as one ascends out of the crater, they become engulfed by a blood-red glow, transforming the atmosphere of comfort into one of intimidation and terror. Lost Platoon is located within the heart of the Uplift Nature Reserve, which was funded by New Mombasa Uplift, those responsible for the creation of the city's space elevator. As the largest wildlife reserve east of Nairobi and one of the most renowned nature reserves in the world, it was once the crown jewel of the city. But when the Covenant chose it as a prime landing position, it became the area with the highest concentration of Covenant forces in the entirety of New Mombasa. Prior to its departure, Regret's carrier, the Solemn Penance, deployed much of its invasion force there, and even after, it continued to be the hottest of Covenant hot zones. Various platoons of Marines were sent into the park to take it back, but were very quickly overwhelmed, and it wasn't until the arrival of Dropshot Trooper Dutch that the tide would turn. He helped the Marines push through the reserve until they reached the area of Lost Platoon, what was once a visitor center for all coming to witness planet Earth's greatest and most exotic wildlife, but now exists as a makeshift UNSC forward operating base. Ammo crates and weapon racks scatter the observation deck and fill the supply rooms, sandbags are stacked to form cover, and a warthog, armed with a heavy chain gun, is stationed in the entrance. Where children would once observe wildlife, snipers are now positioned. Where families would pick up brochures and leaflets, sandbag emplacements are built. Where exotic wildlife would once freely roam, alien invaders desecrate with their filthy footsteps, tearing through the park on their vicious choppers and bombarding it with mortar fire. And then, in the weeks following, the entire nature reserve was more than likely destroyed during the Covenant's glassing of the area to uncover the Ark portal. There is nothing as emblematic of the suffering humanity endured during Earth's invasion than the desecration and destruction of the Uplift Nature Reserve. Sector 10 of New Mombasa has seen better days. A thick cloud of acrid smoke blankets this rally point, parted only by the arrival of phantom dropships. However, luckily for those digging in here, this Kazingo Boulevard entrance to Oni's Alpha site creates the perfect choke point. With Covenant forces converging on the doorway, it's the job of a brave squad of ODSTs to prevent them from carrying out the will of their gods and gaining access to the Alpha site. Various walkways and bridges allow troopers to get the high ground on their foes, whose dropships can only land in 2 locations, making for the perfect kill box. However, lose control of these catwalks and they become an enemy sniper's heaven. Thankfully, there's enough room to fall back, and the further you do, the higher the ground gets, giving you a fantastic view of the enemy landing zones. At night, the neon road markings illuminate the ground, and the remnants of the New Mombasa skyline, backed by the dark, brooding sky, create an ominous reminder of the events occurring in the rest of the city. In an attempt to remain proud and defiant, however, the entrance to the Oni building remains lit up, creating a stark contrast between the deathly darkness that shrouds the city streets, broken only by the amber glow of streetlights, and the vigorous, bright white illumination of the government building. This is either a strong, resilient act of defiance, or a sobering indication of where the priorities of the UNSC and UEG lie. Beyond the now destroyed bridge above the artificial lake leading up to the Oni Alpha site is the security zone. This zone makes up the bulk of the artificial island constructed specifically for this Oni building, located in the centre of an artificial lake walled off by gargantuan concrete walls, and acts as the final line of defence against the Covenant invaders who seek to gain entry to this vital site. Bearing down upon this park-like entrance is the Oni building itself, a vast, dark, featureless, brutalist building with an aggressive shape and silhouette. An almost soulless and evil-looking structure, it towers over the park like a titan, creating a strong sense of insignificance to all shrouded within its shadow, both friend and foe. However, the Covenant's mission to breach this monolith of a structure is going to be an uphill battle. The security zone is, in fact, a rather steep hill, laden with turret emplacements facing down, barriers to protect it from mortar fire, and thick concrete blocks to funnel the enemy down specific paths. Knowing the secrets that would ultimately be stored in this great tower, its architects took notes from their medieval ancestors for its location and design, to ensure it was as impenetrable as even the most resilient of castles. Alpha Site is set within the imposing Oni Alpha Site Tower, the single most important location in the entire continent. The official story is that this tower is simply an Oni office block for their East African Protectorate branch, but the reality is far, far more significant. This tower is in fact home to data aggregators studying the vast foreigner structure that was discovered below the surface of Voi, and that office higher-ups believe to be what the Covenant is after. You can see now why the tower is built on an artificial island in the centre of a walled-off lake with only one access point. The firefight map itself is set within the building's central elevator shaft, where Dutch, Mickey, and the NMPD officers planted the charges to destroy the building and deny the Covenant access to its secrets. The 3 elevators both ascend to the rooftop of the tower and descend deep into the depths of New Mombasa, connecting to the Superintendent's data center below the lake. The only way the enemy can infiltrate this part of the shaft via dropship is by setting down on one of the flanking balconies. These balconies were once places of quiet and solace for those who worked in this tower, fit with benches, water features, a sweeping view of the lake backed by the vast wall that encloses the facility, and a memorial commemorating agents who gave the greatest sacrifice in the line of duty to protect Earth and her people from the very threat now setting down 50 feet away. A sobering reminder that regardless of what we've sacrificed so far, we're still fighting a losing battle. High above the clouds of New Mombasa is the aptly named Windward, set on the rooftop of the New Mombasa Police Department headquarters. Flanked by countless skyscrapers protruding through the murky clouds, owned by various corporations and organizations, many even taller than the NMPD tower, this rooftop was used for emergency evacuation during the invasion. NMPD Pelicans would land at one of the various landing pads scattered around the rooftop, but after a short while, the Covenant caught wind of this and sent Banshees up to patrol above the clouds. During the hysteria at the beginning of the Covenant's invasion of the city, corrupt ex-cop Marshal Glyph went into the lobby of NMPD HQ with an assault rifle, murdering 2 cops and taking 2 hostages, Officer Mike Branley and the daughter of the creator of the Superintendent AI, Sadie Endesha. However, shortly after, the lobby was stormed by a SWAT team who killed Glyph and saved the 2 hostages. Inside the top floor of the tower are various rooms, all seemingly dedicated to NMPD's Special Operations Branch. However, the entire interior is now ravaged by the alien invaders. Rooms empty, monitors left flickering, and documents left scattered. Previously important case files left on the floor for all to see. Outside, officers had attempted to set up makeshift defences, including barrels, crates, and mounted missile pods to try and swat the Banshees out of the sky and defend evacuees. All comms within the tower are undergoing a blackout. Whether that was intentional to stop the Covenant from intercepting evacuation chatter, or a consequence of the invasion is unknown, but given the catastrophic ruins of the space tether on the horizon, I'm inclined to believe it's the latter. Located deep beneath the surface of New Mombasa in sub-level 10 of the Superintendent's AI Data Storage Center is Chasm 10, a dark, unsettling mess of catwalks, bridges, and platforms, all suspended high above a pool of some sort of coolant, an underground lake possibly, to ensure that the AI, with its quintillions of calculations per second, doesn't overheat. Within this sublevel is the Superintendent's main data core as well, which the entire facility was built around and also to accommodate. However, at some point, presumably during its construction, a small section of the Foreigner portal structure was found, and Oni immediately moved in, constructing the Alpha site above it to both mask its existence and also to allow them to covertly research this mysterious alien structure. The large majority of those involved with the AI's construction were not informed of the discovery, including Daniel Endesha, its creator, who found out just as the invasion began. Knowing that the Covenant were headed for this mysterious ancient structure, Oni set up makeshift defences in the chasm facing their entry point, barricades, sandbags, crates, and turrets, and disabled the elevators to make this chasm as difficult as possible for the enemy to traverse. At some point during the invasion, however, this chasm was transformed into a drone hive. How such a vast thing was created so quickly is totally unknown, but its size and the rate of its expansion is unsettling, to say the least. And at the end of today's road, we have Last Exit, what was once the glorious entrance to the Uplift Nature Reserve. Located directly off one of New Mombasa Coastal Highway's junctions, this grand, majestic entrance once welcomed its visitors like royalty returning to their palace. Grand palm trees, large solid gold statues of Africa's regal zebras flanking the entrance stairs, sweeping views of the almost neo-futurist New Mombasa downtown district, and majestic marble features lining the walls of the interior. This was evidently a place that residents of New Mombasa were proud of. However, given their occupation of the park, the Covenant soon began to overflow into the entrance as well. The now desolate parking lot is controlled by jackals. Grunts and brutes stomp up the stairs beneath the watchful eyes of the zebras, and ghosts patrol the entry road and gazebo. Where families once queued to purchase park entry tickets, friendly snipers now dig in to defend the entrance. Where they would walk to enter the park itself now contains weapon racks, stocked full of pistols, submachine guns, fragmentation grenades, and more. The rapid changes this entranceway has undergone are symbolic of how ruthless and cruel our invaders are, but also how defiant the forces of humanity stand to defend what is theirs. And so, that's the lore behind every single Halo 3 ODST Firefight map and also the locations the maps are set in. Now, considering that all the maps are literally just encounters cut from the campaign, the lore does tend to overlap quite heavily with that of the campaigns, but I mean, regardless, it still adds some nice background flavour to the map that you're probably currently suffering on trying to get the Endure challenge completed. I mean, seriously, Godspeed to any of you trying to get Endure done again. Take my advice, right? Lost Platoon, choppers. It's such an overpowered strategy that even Bungie went as far as saying that it doesn't count, but trust me, it does. I'll be honest, fellas, I'm not quite sure if I've got the cojones to try and do Endure again. My only memory of doing it was in 2009 on really, really high ping, and it wasn't a pleasant experience, so I don't know if I'm going to try and do it again, but Godspeed to any of you who are. And with that said, that's going to do it for today. I want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons for the continued support over on patreon.com/HiddenXperia, and thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all in the next one.